Good afternoon, and thank you very much for coming. On behalf of Veterans in Politics International, I want to thank you very much for coming in on a Sunday. And I also want to recognize you for running for office. It's not an easy thing to do, so I appreciate that. One thing I wanted to make sure that I mention is this is being sponsored by Patsy Brown. She's a candidate for Clark County Public Administrator. So now what I'm going to do is just give you a brief overview of how we do this. Each one of us will give you like a 30-second introduction of who we are, just so you get an idea of who's asking you questions. And then when the panel members ask you a question, then you'll have 2 minutes to respond. And then I'm not going to interrupt you right in the middle of 2 minutes, but if you can wrap your answer up as soon as possible, I'd appreciate that. And then at the end of the interview, then you'll be given 2 minutes to just for closing statements and give your point of contact. Okay. All right. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Jim Jonas. I'm the director of Veterans in Politics, and I also co-host our podcast with President of Veterans in Politics, Steve Sanson.
I'm Frank Franz. I'm a family court activist involved in local politics and vice president of my daughter's PTA.
I'm Robert Faust. I am a third-generation veteran. My grandfather and my father were both before me and served. When I came back from the war, I did some movies and television and played pro baseball. I've authored 2 books.
Okay. If you want to go ahead and you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, by the way. My name is Mario Mitchell. I'm a Air Force veteran myself. So once again, thanks for having me. It is tough being a veteran running for office because we don't have a lot of advocation for that, for sure. So I'm running for City Council Ward 3 in North Las Vegas. I am the chairman and executive vice president of the Southern Nevada Veterans Chamber of Commerce that we launched back in November. I am the lead chair for Bunker Labs, which is veteran entrepreneurship. So it's a national program. I lead the chapter out here. I coach my son's flag football team, and I'm his principal because we homeschool. So don't judge me on the tackle. He's too young for tackle just yet. That's how he looks.
Yeah, I play flag.
Y'all see, there we go. But yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. I'm going to keep it short and sweet.
Okay, so my first question for you is, okay, it's a 2-part question. The first part's real easy. Is this the first time you've ran for office? And then if it is, why exactly are you running for city council? What is it special about being a city councilman that you find so important that drives you to want to be a city councilman?
So this is my first time running for office. Never have thought about it. Never have. I found it to be an interest to me because the first question was, who's my city councilman? Right. I grew up down south. City council is a big thing, and I didn't know who mine was. The second thing is, I got 4 kids at home, so we always walk our communities and things like that. And there's just some things in my community from my neighbors as well that we want to see change of, but we're just not seeing from that level. So I thought, me being military, I'm not going to complain about it. I'm going to do something about it. So that was why I decided to run.
Could you tell us what your political affiliation is, and also your religious background, and do you believe in separation of state and politics, or that?
So I'll be honest, I was nonpartisan. When I joined the military, my first time voting, I was 18. I voted for Barack Obama because, hey, I didn't see many black folks running for president. So I voted. So I'm running as a Democrat in a nonpartisan race because I know if I want to run for something in the future, that's just but I'm not a politician whatsoever. I kind of like to see what's right and what's wrong, and I make my decisions off that. I'm a Christian. Like I said, I'm from Mississippi originally, so that's where I stand.
Can you define exactly what the role is for a city councilman?
So and this is me growing up, city council members or aldermen, depending on where you are, you're community leaders. So it's not, you sit in a chair and you vote on certain things, but I really believe that city council members should be out there in their communities, really find out how they can really help stir change and hear the people out, because they are the representative within the city for their areas, their wards, their districts. So that's, in my mind, is outside of voting for, hey, let's get this new building here or whatever. I am a big fan of taking pride in what I represent. So if I go to every park, which we do, if I see issues, I want to bring that back and say, we need to fix this. Or, you know, we have a lot of crime in our area, and I think it's due to the lack of police that roam our neighborhoods. Once again, that's something that city council members should be knowing and should be doing. So it's really just being that leader of that community, being that voice of the people, and driving that change for your community.
Could you give us a breakdown of the demographic of your ward? And since you say you're out there with the people, what are they expressing to you as their concerns that you're going to bring to the table and fight for them for?
I always go back to my first time ever running, still trying to figure out that whole breakdown in demographics, because I don't have a campaign manager to help me drive and learn a lot of this. I'm learning on the fly. But I have spoken to people in my community. And I say my community, so that's basically everyone that's around our homeschool community to the flag football community, et cetera. But the crime is the biggest thing. And I'm like, I understand that. I have 4 young kids. I'm concerned about that. Right now, I left my kids and wife at home. And I'm like, you know, who's going to protect them if I'm so far away? So that's the first thing. Our kids play out in our neighborhoods. We need to make sure they're safe. The second thing is our playgrounds, the parks, and opportunities. So I do homeschool. We homeschool for certain reasons. Want to be a teacher, our kids, we want to teach them. But our community doesn't give us a lot of access to what we want to teach them. You can't take them to a park if the park's torn down, things like that. So, you know, we hear things like that. How can we fix up the parks? You know, I care less about pothole. I want to be able to take my kids to do certain things. Crime is another thing. Education, we can't touch with a 10-foot pole, but I'm an advocate for homeschool for that reason. So how can we provide other opportunities? And that's what people want to know, is what can the city do to support where we live? Because we do live here. And how can we continue living here? We don't want people packing up and moving. We want to keep them here. So how can we make them feel at home when they are at home?
So you said you're an advocate for homeschooling, which I am also very into. My daughter is well advanced past her grade, but she still has to go to public school. Now, would you be open to maybe looking into, for city council, getting a voucher that would follow the student? So say the school already spends $18,000 per student in taxes. Well, now that student is given a check for $18,000. And if you homeschool them, that check goes to you. If you send them to a private school, that check goes to the private school. It goes to where you see your children being educated best. Would that be something you would fight for?
So once again, we know the cost. Like, it's not cheap, but I still have to pay taxes one way or another that goes to the school that my son's not attending. So I would be all for that, because we are in the ring. We do have support groups to try to help other people pay for certain things. But it would be nice if Clark County, we had to file certain paperwork. It'd be nice if Clark County School District provided us with some additional funds, which our kids are not using, to help us offset teaching our kids at home.
So what is your education and where did you get it?
So I don't have a college degree. I went to the military right after high school. So my high school was actually Mojave High School when we moved out here. So that's where I graduated from, met my wife from, had some good times there. So that's where it is. I do have my community college at the Air Force, you know, credits that they kind of have us go through and get. But I don't have any formal university education. But I am a fan of, you learn wherever you are. So you surround yourself around really dope people. And at the end of the day, you're going to learn a thing or two.
So do you think that in the schools today, as a councilman, you would have some say on that? And do you feel that the teachers should be advancing homosexuality and gayness? Or do you think that schools should be, you know, you come there, you learn, and you go home?
Once again, I'm a fan of, I don't think there's a school's place to do, because the questions that are asked they come home, and then it's up to the parents to kind of regulate and answer those questions. Schools aren't equipped. They're going to teach them these things. The kids will always come home and ask those questions. If my son has a question, I'd rather for him to find it out and come ask me directly, not trying to have to tiptoe around what the schools kind of put in their head, because sometimes they give them misleading information. So I'm a big fan of schools staying away from that with 10-foot pole and letting the parents parent the way they want to parent.
One of the things that I've noticed as a challenge for North Las Vegas is it has a bad stigma. Okay. And I don't think it's proper, but perception is reality. So whenever I bring up North Las Vegas, they're like, oh, it's like the redheaded stepchild of the valley for whatever reason. Earlier today, we did an interview with two gentlemen that are running for mayor of North Las Vegas. One of them brought up the point about we need to work on branding and work on a way to rebrand North Las Vegas. So if we remove that stigma that comes along with North Las Vegas, more people will be willing to invest in North Las Vegas and feel more comfortable visiting North Las Vegas. As a city councilman, what could you add to that to help advance that? Because I do feel that North Las Vegas has a branding problem.
It always goes back to the leadership in place. So if I am the representative for, let's say I'm the mayor, I go to every event that's in the valley and I'm the representation. It shouldn't be a branding issue if I'm out there advocating, giving us a good name. If our leaders don't do it, then why would the public outside of that see anything other than that? Las Vegas Strip already has all the glamour, all the glitter. They get everything else. Henderson's getting the minor leagues, hockey teams and things like that. Who's advocating for us to get any of these different things, that's coming to the city? It's a real big problem within the leadership. Representing North Las Vegas and really trying to uplift that stigma, because it can be uplifted. You can go out there and represent. You can go out and create more to where we are a household name. We're on the news for more than just this happened today, this car accident on this road, and we all know it's Craig Road, right? Like it can be more than that. But once again, our leadership, they're more concerned with building up their own personal brands than building up the brand of the city. And once again, that I think military taught me a whole lot more as working as a team. And I think people should just work more together on building up our own brand locally before we go out there and try to focus on our next steps. 'Cause I think a lot of people kind of get in office and then they prepare for their next steps. Whether I want to run for governor or stuff like that, I'm focused on Mario, not what I was voted in office to do.
So you mentioned that crime is a big concern of your constituents in your area that you talk to, because you said you're already out there communicating and things like that. And you're a little concerned yourself because you said you left your wife and kids at home, and who's there to protect them. Are you an advocate for CCWs and the Second Amendment, or are you more of a let's get the guns out of here kind of guy?
So it depends, right? I have kids at home. It's all for me to make sure I practice safety at home. If y'all all were carrying right now, it would not bother me at all, because I believe we all have a right to protect ourselves, our families. I think there's a right or wrong way. Like, we all go get that certification, say we know what to do. And I think that should be that qualification. Like, I know you're not just going to up and shoot me just because, right? And I think it's an education thing. Like, people fear, they're carrying, and we all have certification. That's right or wrong. I just believe that it's your choice. Like, we all have choices, and we all make choices every day. And if I want to carry, but I have 4 kids, my kids can do everything. So it's hard for me to say I'm gonna do it at home. But I'm not opposed to other people. I have my friends do it. And I'm like, that's dope. Can't wait till my kids are old enough so I can also do it. And it's like I said, it's an educational platform that people should not judge people on. I feel safer protecting my family if I'm out to eat, and I know that I don't have to look on my shoulder every 10 seconds for what some crazy in the world's going to do.
Do you own a weapon?
What was that?
Do you own a weapon?
No, I don't own any weapons, mostly because I never needed none. Like I said, I trust that someone gets in my house, I can subdue them any other way outside of that. But it is my intent, my kids do get older, that I will, go back, because I do go out to the range and I shoot my brothers and things like that. So.
Well, first off, Mario, I want to thank you for your service, first off. I forgot to do that earlier, so I apologize. You did bring up one thing, though, that kind of stuck with me. So you say you're not concerned about potholes, but you're concerned about parks. I understand kind of what you're going, where you're going with that. One of the things is that I firmly am a strong believer in this, that everything impacts veterans the same as it impacts everyone else. As far as if the streets are hard to get down, a veteran's trying to go to work. It's hard for a veteran. So what is your main concern then besides parks and safety? Is there just one more?
So my main, like I said, is community, safety, education, employment. Like I said, I am chairman of a veterans chamber, which we focus on employment, education, mental health, so veteran advocacy. So it is a whole lot more. When I said potholes, the analogy behind it is a pothole only would service that street. A park service the whole community. So I should have broke that down a little bit more, but it's more about I can go and knock on a door and say I can fix your problem, but that's only serving one person. I want to be able to service more, so I'm always community focused. Me being a veteran, I can't wear the hat all day and just service just vets, because there's some people in my neighborhood that aren't vets, but I am a vet. I'm 8% disabled, and I'm able to, if I have a seat and a voice, I advocate for anyone that needs the support. So
you said parks and things like that are kind of a concern. Would you be open to maybe while if you get in there, talking about, instead of going through all this red tape and getting a super huge contractor who's got to go through a union, who's got to do all this paperwork, maybe giving it to a local business like, hey, we need you to come fix this. We need you to weld this. We need you to go put a 5-foot square of asphalt over here. You know what I mean? Instead of contracting it out to somebody that the city just always gives the contract to, who takes 3 months to get it out there, and then 8 guys sit on the side of the road and 1 guy pours something.
So I'm a big fan of innovation, and I think innovation starts in community. If I'm going to go all the way out the spectrum and give it to the people that's already there, guess what? I'm taking food out of 10, 20, 30 families' mouths, right? If I give it to the local community to do those jobs, first off, they're going to do it in a timely manner, like you said. Second off, we are supporting our community by letting them do the jobs we need done. And I think that's how it should be in these areas, is we all work together. Can't work together if I'm outsourcing, and have those contracts probably not even coming from North Las Vegas. It's probably coming from Las Vegas or Henderson. So we need to make sure that we are sourcing within our own community for the stigma purposes. So
would you advocate for a stadium or an arena or something like that? Like North Las Vegas could have a professional baseball, football, basketball team, something to identify with.
So once again, the sports that brings in tons of money into the area. Like, everyone goes to a Raiders game, but that money's not coming back to North Las Vegas. We do need something like that that's going to generate revenue for North Las Vegas as well, unless Las Vegas wants to work with us to give us that, because people that live in North Las Vegas works at that stadium. Some of the money should be coming back to us. So we have to build a stadium. I would be all on board for it, because once again, how do we clear the stigmas is what we bring into our community.
So you mentioned that your son plays flag football.
Yes.
I also do as well. And people may have or may have not noticed, but it's getting big. Last year, ESPN had it on the TV, and Fighting Cancer won $1 million in the championship. What about if you can't get a stadium, maybe 5 flag football fields and 5 soccer fields in a nice flat area? The construction would be all Northtown, all city for you guys, and the contract, doing something like that and renting them out for events and letting people's teams just practice up there. The schools practice up on new fields, and the revenue goes back to the city.
Once again, I'm a fan of anything like that. When I say innovation, that's an innovative idea, right? I also have a vision of building workforce development centers, because we have them. They just don't do what we need them to do in North Las Vegas. I think we can innovate them. I'm from Mississippi. We built a tech district. We don't have anything like that down there. We built a full tech district down the street from the universities to really promote technology as opportunities for our youth, as well as, for the mom and pop shops that grew up without having that education. I want to bring something like that into the ward as well. So I think things like that is going to always drive more revenue coming in. But, someone has to be the voice to advocate for it. And that's the advocacy that I kind of want to provide when we talk about innovative ideas to really drive change into North Las Vegas.
Mario, what? Go ahead.
Okay. So, Mario, you're involved in a veterans organization. How will you use being a city councilman to even advocate more for veterans, and maybe expand on, since you are a veteran and you have already built some relationships, what would you do to expand your network, so to speak, to even bring more awareness to veterans issues in North Las Vegas and more aid for veterans in North Las Vegas?
I just had this conversation on my ride here today. So not even just vets, but after duty period, I'm in between Creech and Nellis. The BAH for E1 to E4 does not cover the cost of rent in most places in North Las Vegas. That's a problem. Like, they serve the country, and yet we can't get even a decent neighborhood allocated to the after duty to support them and their young families if they do have that. But I do think, like, using my network and my voice to bring awareness to how, I'm a 8% disabled. I've yet to be able to get into the VA hospital. How can we solve that issue? Las Vegas is doing tons of different things to bring in more access to healthcare, access to food, things like that into the neighborhoods, the vets, everything else. I'm like, why can't we do that in North Las Vegas? So even tapping into Las Vegas and working with them to get access to those programs to bring up north, that has to be done. I've also noticed in my time, what drove me run as well as city council, cities, they don't communicate with one another. And I think they dropped the ball, because if we work together, we can have the same resources allocated to us. So if I can use my network to bring more to Las Vegas, that's the whole point of this. I'm the representation for Ward 3. I should be willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that everyone in the ward, even everyone in North Las Vegas, I'm not going to speak for the ward anymore. I think everyone in Las Vegas, because if I succeed, everyone around me should succeed as well.
Yeah, success is definitely a domino effect. It does affect those around you. That's why successful people surround themselves with successful people. So to be successful, you definitely need sense of community and something to fight for and somewhere to be. Several other people running have talked about basically these tract homes that go up. They're just too small. They track low, maybe middle income families, and it's not even enough room for them. Would you do something about going from these 1,500 square feet homes to maybe be like, hey, it needs to be 2,800 square feet, 3,000 square feet, 3,200 square feet, somewhere in that range, so families can be here in our communities, grow up here, and stay here and invest in here?
I don't know about y'all. I always had a backyard with grass in the backyard, right? I have 4 kids. When we was looking for where we're going to live, we didn't find many homes. We found places to live. We didn't find homes. So I think, to your point, we do need to try to advocate for family housing, family homes, so that people can stay. Because what am I looking at? As my kids get older, I'm looking for a bigger house. I'm looking for something more, because my house won't get the job done as my kids grow. So I think finding homes being built that are forever homes for families to stay here is a very important thing. Because what's going to wind up happening is I'm going to move out to Summerlin. I'm going to move out to Henderson, somewhere where I can find that. And I think North Las Vegas has opportunity, as we build more homes, to do just that. But someone has to advocate for it.
Okay. Well, this isn't a question, Mario. This is actually a statement. And don't take this as an official endorsement. But I just want to thank you very much for coming in. And I want to tell you, not only thank you for your service, but you are an extremely bright and intelligent individual. And handling getting random questions from people you do not know is not an easy thing to do, but you've jumped into the political arena, so you're going to have to, whether you like it or not now. But that's just on a personal note from me, is that I really want to thank you very much for coming on. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and give you 3 to 5 minutes to say whatever you want to say. At the end, you might want to give your point of contact as well.
Once again, thank y'all for having me. I got the call when we were on family vacation. I got super excited because this is my first official political thing I've done since I announced my running for campaign for office. But I just want to let everyone know that we are, and I say me, my wife, my friends, we're all in this together, because if I win, we all win. We want to see change. We want to inspire change. We want to really see innovation coming to North Las Vegas. We want to really make sure that people feel at home, because people are moving in, and I feel like as they move in, they push us out, and we need to make a stand, because North Las Vegas, it is reasonably priced to live, but that means you're pushing families out because landlords are trying to do that. So I want to be the voice to help advocate to keep people in their homes, keep families in their homes, and help their families grow and prosper. Because I grew up down south, communities mean everything. And I've heard, over and over, people don't know their neighbors because they change so much. People don't know their neighborhoods because what's the point? But we should not be talking like that. We should be talking about how let's go have a community event in the park. Let's go do more than just what the city wants to put out there. Let's take ownership of our city. Let's take ownership of what we want to have in our city. And that's what I'm about. Innovation is what drives me every single day to make change, not only for me, but I have 4 kids. When I can't do this anymore, I want my kids to learn that this is their home, and they should also want to be making change. They go off to college, they want to come back and make change, because that's what people don't understand is our kids going to pack up and go. And it's up to how we raise them that they come back. And those ideas that they saw when they went out to college, wherever they at, they come back and they want to build upon what we started, the foundation. So, like I said, my name is Mario Mitchell. I'm running for City Council Ward 3 of North Las Vegas. Mario for Nevada is my website. If you do want to contact me, my number is public. It's 702-793-8308. I just want to talk to anyone that wants to talk about changing North Las Vegas, and not just my ward, the city as a whole, because I'm speaking to all the other candidates and they have certain questions, but we don't know how to tackle them. So I want to be the first one to say, I want to advocate and be the voice for all the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mario. And with that will conclude our endorsement interview for North Las Vegas City Council Ward 3.